All right, let's dive right into one of the coolest processes inside a cell, prokaryotic translation. Now, I don't want you to think of this as just some boring biological pathway. Instead, picture a super high-tech, high-precision molecular factory. It's got everything: blueprints, heavy machinery, even little supervisors running around, all working together to build the proteins that literally make life happen.
So, here's how we're going to tackle this. First up, we'll meet the key players, the crew on the factory floor. Then, we're going to walk through the 4 main stages of production. We'll see how they load up the raw materials, assemble the factory itself, run the main assembly line, and then how they shut it all down and clean up afterwards.
Okay, before we can even think about making a protein, we've got to get to know the crew and their tools. You'll see that every single player here has a super specific, super critical job in this tiny little manufacturing plant. So this table really breaks it down for us. Think of it like this. The mRNA, that's your blueprint, the set of instructions. The ribosome is the factory, the actual building where all the action happens. Then you've got your tRNAs. These are the delivery trucks, bringing in the raw materials, which are the amino acids. And finally, you have these things called factors. We'll talk about initiation, elongation, and release factors. These guys are the supervisors, making sure every single step happens perfectly and in the right order. Super important.
All right, first things first. Before the factory even opens for business, we have to load up those delivery trucks. This whole process is called tRNA charging, and it's all about making sure each truck has exactly the right cargo on board. So, loading up these tRNAs is a 2-step deal. First, you've got to activate the amino acid. This is called adenylation. The cell uses a little burst of energy from ATP to do this, kind of like sticking a handle on the amino acid to make it easier to grab. Then, in step 2, that energized amino acid gets transferred onto its specific tRNA. Once that's done, the tRNA is officially charged and ready to go. So who's in charge of this whole loading process? It's this master enzyme called amino-acyl tRNA synthetase. And get this, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. There's a different, super-specific synthetase for each of the 20 amino acids. This is your critical quality control step. It's got to make absolutely sure that, say, leucine only gets loaded onto a tRNA that's meant for leucine. Why? Because if there's a mistake here, you get a messed up protein downstream. The fidelity of this step is everything.
Okay, our delivery trucks are loaded and ready. Now let's watch how the factory itself actually gets built around that mRNA blueprint. And what's cool is, this factory isn't always there. It's a pop-up shop. It assembles exactly where and when it's needed.
So you've got this long strip of mRNA. How in the world does the ribosome know where to start? Well, it looks for a signal, like a sign on a highway. In prokaryotes, that sign is called the Shine-Dalgarno sequence. It's a specific little code on the mRNA that the small part of the ribosome, the 30S subunit, recognizes and latches onto. This lines everything up perfectly so that the start codon, AUG, is right where it needs to be. It's literally a dock here sign for the ribosome.
And this is where those supervisors we mentioned, the initiation factors, come into play. Seriously, think of them as traffic cops managing a busy intersection. You've got IF3, whose job is to hold back the big 50S subunit, like, nope, not yet. Then there's IF1, which physically blocks one of the entry gates, the A site, making sure that the very first tRNA has to go to a different gate, the P site. And finally, you have IF2. This one uses a bit of energy from GTP to act as a personal escort for that special first tRNA, guiding it right to the starting line.
Okay, so let's walk through the assembly sequence. First, the small 30S subunit, the mRNA blueprint, and all those initiation factors get together. Then that special initiator tRNA comes in and docks at the P site. That's the trigger. The moment it docks, IF2 burns its little energy packet of GTP. It's like flipping a switch. That burst of energy makes all the initiation factors just pop off. Now the coast is clear for the big 50S subunit to slam into place. And voila! You have the complete 70S initiation complex. The factory is officially open for business.
All right, the factory is built, the first piece is on the line. Now we get to the main event, the elongation cycle. This is where the real work happens. It's a super fast, super repetitive cycle that builds the protein, one little piece at a time. You can really think of this cycle as a 3-step dance. It's beautifully coordinated. Step 1, a new charged tRNA, our delivery truck, pulls into the open bay, the A site. Step 2, the growing protein chain that's waiting in the P site gets unhooked and immediately linked to the new amino acid in the A site,
Boom, peptide bond formed. Step 3. The whole ribosome shuffles down the mRNA by exactly 1 codon. This is called translation. And then the dance repeats, over and over and over again.
Now, this cycle isn't just happening by magic. It's being actively driven by a new set of supervisors, the elongation factors. You've got EF2, which is like the valet, escorting each new tRNA to the A site. Then there's EFTS, think of it as the pit crew, quickly recharging EFTU so it can go grab another tRNA. And finally, there's the muscle, EFG. This guy is the powerhouse that uses GTP energy to physically push the ribosome down the line. It's an incredible team effort.
So let's talk about the most important chemical reaction here, forming that peptide bond. What's actually doing the work? You'd probably guess it's a protein enzyme, right? Wrong. The real catalyst here is actually the RNA inside the ribosome, specifically the 23S rRNA in the big 50S subunit. This makes the ribosome a ribozyme, an RNA molecule that acts as an enzyme. And this is a massive deal scientifically. It's one of the biggest pieces of evidence for the RNA world hypothesis, the idea that early life might have been based entirely on RNA. This little comparison really drives home a key point about energy in this system. Check it out. EFT, the delivery guy, and EFG, the muscle that moves the whole factory, have totally different jobs. But look at what they have in common. They're both powered by the same energy source, GTP. They both burn GTP to get their work done. It just goes to show how central GTP hydrolysis is for driving this whole assembly line forward.
And just a quick but crucial reminder, this is a one-way street. The ribosome always reads that mRNA blueprint in one direction, from 5' to 3', no going backwards.
Okay, so the assembly line is humming along, adding amino acid after amino acid. But what happens when the protein is done? How does it all stop? Well, shutting down production has to be just as perfect and precise as starting it up. Otherwise, you've got a big mess.
It all starts when the ribosome hits a stop sign, one of 3 special stop codons on the mRNA. Now, there's no tRNA that recognizes these codons. Instead, a totally different protein called a release factor shows up, and it's a clever little mimic. It's shaped just like a tRNA, so it can fit right into that empty A site. Once it's in, it acts like a pair of molecular scissors, snipping the finished protein free from the last tRNA. And after that, a whole cleanup crew shows up to tear down the factory.
And you won't believe who's on this cleanup crew. After the release factor does its job, another protein, the ribosome release factor, teams up with, wait for it, elongation factor G. The same guy who was pushing the ribosome along now provides the energy to break it in half. And then, to top it all off, initiation factor 3, the one that helped start everything, comes back to grab the small subunit and make sure it doesn't just snap back together again. It's a beautiful, perfect example of molecular recycling.
So when you step back and look at the whole thing, what do you see? You see this incredible factory that gets built from scratch, does one very specific job, and then is immediately torn down. Now that might sound inefficient, but it's actually the complete opposite. It's the ultimate form of control. This allows the cell to be incredibly agile, to make exactly the protein it needs right when it needs it, and then stop. It's just a stunning example of how elegant and ruthlessly efficient the molecular world is. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other parts of the cell are running on this build-on-demand principle?